You can almost see my cat. Hi, Cooper. Okay, it is another month that's gone by, and it's December now, and I don't know how to feel about it. But I'm wearing my comfiest shirt that I own, and I am ready to talk about some books. Yeah, just rubbed her face on the microphone. I hope you could hear some of her purrs and not just her rubbing her face on it. First book I read was Vox Machina. It's the newest graphic novel that's the origin story of Critical Role's first campaign. If you don't know Critical Role, it's a Dungeons and Dragons show, and they've turned it into a web comic or a comic, and they've turned it into a TV show. I think they're turning it into a video game. Like, it's a lot. But this is book number 4. It's volume 4, and it actually catches up, I believe, to the TV show. And it's very different because if you can see this art, it's very wholesome. Is that the right word for it? It's very cartoonish. It's very, like, none of it is very violent, which if you've seen Vox Machina, The Legend of Vox Machina, the TV show, it's extremely violent. So seeing them fighting dragons and things like that, it's very watered down in comparison to the TV show and the campaign itself. I mean, I don't mind the art style personally, but it just makes it seem a little less serious and less, like, the stakes seem lower just because there's no blood or guts or anything like that. I ended up giving that graphic novel 4 stars. I thought it was pretty exciting and pretty interesting, just not a full 5-star graphic novel. I never give graphic novels 5 stars. I don't know what I'm talking about. They typically just don't do enough. Graphic novels for me often are missing something where it comes to, like, you don't get the descriptions, you only see it. And so I have a tendency to fly through them without really thinking. So maybe that's more of my fault than people who actually make graphic novels. The next book I read was A Forgery of Fate. I got this from the library, so I don't have the physical copy. It is a story about a girl who is a forger. She forges art and sells it to people who think it's the actual thing. And she basically, I swear I get more and more spam calls every goddamn day. I have had my phone number since I was like 12, so guess that'll happen. Forgery of Fate is a story about a girl who forges art and then sells it to people who think it's the actual thing. And then she uses that money basically to support her family. Her father goes missing when she's young, and no one knows what happens to him. And then she has 2 sisters and her mom. And her mom is kind of, she reads fortunes for a living. Her mom also has a gambling debt, and they are in debt with one of the biggest crime families in the city. And so she basically the daughter goes into an arranged marriage with a prince of some kind, or he's known as a prince. And he wants her to go back. Is this a spoiler? I don't actually know. I need to read the synopsis, but I don't have it anymore. He wants her to go back to his kingdom to help defeat his grandfather, basically, who is the current ruler. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, I believe. I have nothing written down. Let's be real. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the romance was, like, it's kind of a romantasy, but like a young adult romantasy. And they make it seem like it's an enemies to lovers, but it's kind of the thing where he's like, oh, well, he clearly loves her, but he's being an asshole. But I think he's too convincing of an asshole that I believed that he was an asshole. So when he flips to being in love, it's not very believable to me. Like, I have a hard time believing their romance. But they're also, everything seems to be solved pretty conveniently in the end. And that's not my favorite. But it's basically her coming up with a clever plan and being like, oh my God, I got this. And then there's an action scene and then she does something and then everything is fixed. But I just did like the forger part of things where she is meant to be able to be this great artist and can see the future through her art. I thought that was really interesting. But I guess I just wanted a little bit more from this book. I wanted a little bit more action and a little bit more romance, which is wild for me. Let's be real, I'm not a romance person, but I wanted it to be more romantic and for the romance to be a little more believable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The next book I read was The Last House on Needless Street, and I think I have an unpopular opinion because everybody loves this book. It's supposed to be, oh, these big plot twists you'll never see coming, and it's so great and so interesting. And yeah, like I didn't see the plot twist coming, but at the same time, it brings out a community of people that I can't say if it's a good representation or not. And I can't say what kind of community it is. I can't say like anything more because it'd be a giant spoiler. But I also don't have enough experience to know if it's good representation or not. And I also don't like it. I don't know how to say this. I think it was like horrifying what the characters go through because there's a lot of triggers for child abuse and things like that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't very scary. It was just horrifying what the characters were going through. And it was mostly just kind of sad. And there was one character that dies in like the most just out of the blue way that just kind of ended their story. And like, I was like, what was the point of even having this character in this story if you were just going to unceremoniously kill them and have their story not really mean anything anymore? I just had some problems with it. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I did find it very surprising. I did not see the plot twist coming. I read the first volume of The Unordinary, which is a graphic novel series that was originally a webcomic, I believe, and then they turned it into graphic novels. And I actually borrowed it from my friend, and it took me a really long time to read it because that's just the kind of person I am. It was just sitting on my shelf for like 6 months, and then I binge read it and then gave it back. But this is a story about a high school that has people with superpowers in it. It's a lot of strength based superpowers, it seems. Like there's a lot of fighting that goes on. And your main character is a guy whose name I can't remember. And he doesn't have any powers. And so he's kind of this outsider, but he befriends one of the strongest girls in school. And she kind of tries to protect him, but at the same time, he can kind of handle himself. And he's totally fine with getting hurt in fights and things like that. Like he will get the shit kicked out of him and he doesn't really care. He'll go back out after being in the nurse's office and then just go back out and get into another fight, which I thought was a really interesting character dynamic. I really liked that about him, about how he wasn't afraid of these people with powers when he didn't have any. And there was this big scene that was a fight scene that where people used their powers, and it was kind of like a thing that they did when they would have like one person fight and then a backup person and then an even more backup person and they would all fight. And I wasn't really interested in that, like that dynamic. I was more interested in the overarching storyline because there's this book that his father had written that was about superheroes that don't have powers and like vigilantes and things like that. And I thought that story was really interesting because all of these vigilantes were getting murdered. And I wanted more from that part of things. Like it happened a little bit, like you get a little bit of information, but I just wanted that to be the entire storyline, if I'm being honest. Just this one kid getting the shit kicked out of him, and also the overarching plot line of these vigilantes being murdered. Yeah, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Let's talk about my favorite book of the month. I just finished it a couple of days ago. It is My Murder by Katie Williams. I also got this from the library, but I haven't returned it yet because I haven't finished the other book that I read that I checked out. So this is a story about a girl who is murdered by a serial killer. She's one of 5 victims, and they have the technology now to clone people. So they basically take their murdered body, clone them, And then they have all of their memories except the memory of the crime itself and like the day leading up to it. Um, and she's in like a support group with these four other people, these four other women. And yeah, it's mostly, it's not really like they talk about it being a thriller, and how scary it is. It's not. It's, I would say it's more literary fiction because it's very much about what kind of person you are if you're no longer in your body, but you have your memories. Like, do your memories make you a person, or is it like your body and your organs, your brain? Does that make you who you are? And it reminded me a lot of, there was this episode of Firefly, just bringing it back to Firefly, um, where this man is a friend of the crew, and he gets his money by smuggling organs. And so he has like his brain, but all the rest of his organs have been replaced. And I took a class in college that was basically television as literature. And we analyzed that. And it was the big question was, well, is he still him without all of his organs? Like, is it his brain that makes him, or is it the rest of him that makes him? Like, where does the soul live? Can you still say he's the same person? And I felt that very much from this book. And I feel like it doesn't really spoon feed it to you what you should believe at the end of the day. Like, is this person actually still Lou, or is she someone completely different? Like, is she really the mother of her child because she didn't carry her child inside of her? And I think it's a really interesting question. Like, I don't know the answer to it, but I gave this 4.5 stars because I really liked that conversation and the struggles that this character goes through. But I did not like the ending. Like, the plot twist was really not my thing at all, but it didn't stop me from really loving this book. Like, I've seen reviews on Goodreads and people hated the ending and it ruined the book for them. And I'm like, I mean, it only happens in the last like 30 pages. So if you ignore the last 30 pages, it's a really good book. So yeah, that was my favorite book. We can talk about what I'm going to read, but I feel like I should call that my TBR, the pile of lies, because let's be real, every time I tell you what I'm going to be reading, I always read something completely different. So let's just take a look. Hold on a second. Okay, the book that I have to read because I checked it out from the library and I've been really invested in it, even though I'm only like 50 pages in, is Legendborn. This is the first book in a trilogy, I want to say. Maybe there's a fourth one coming out. I don't actually know, but they're pretty big books. Like, I think the second and third one are even longer than this. And it's a story about a girl who discovers she has magical powers, and she's at a school and there's a secret society type of thing. And so it feels really generic with the plot line. I'm editing right now, and I realized that I did not do Legendborn any sort of justice at all as to what kind of book this is. And I also called it generic. I think because I was only like 50 pages in and it felt like, oh, this girl is going to a school and there's magic involved, that it was just like every other magic school thing. But that's not what it's about at all. Yes, there is a secret society, but she kind of becomes a part of it. And then there's some trials in order to become, what is this? She goes through some trials to try and become part of this secret society, and they kind of get powers from that. But now I'm halfway through and it's really fascinating and really exciting. And I like everything that it has to say about like racism and class and grief. I I avoided picking this book up for a long time because of its portrayal of grief, and I was not ready to face that. And now I'm invested and I like everything it has to say. So I'm really enjoying it so far, and I didn't do it justice. So I just had to come in and say that. But I also don't really care because I really like the writing. And so far, I really like the characters. Like, I thought she was going to be with the brooding guy and that was going to be like her romantic interest, but apparently it's the nerdy guy. So I'm here for it. I also have this book that I'm halfway through. I'm on page 165. It's As You Wish. And I don't know if I'm going to continue this book or not because there are so many characters. It's about these three girls who are nannies for three different families. So you have the three girls, the three different families. They all have married parents, and they all have at least one or two kids. And then there's brothers, and there's best friends, and there's like it's a lot to wrap my head around. But it's basically these girls have this dream. They're in Korea, yeah, they're in Seoul. They're all from America, and they're in Seoul being being nannies, and they go and make wishes at this waterfall, and the wishes seemingly come true. But I also have the problem with the age of these characters. They're supposed to be like 25, but I feel like they read much younger. Like one of them wishes that she never falls in love again because she is brokenhearted from her boyfriend. And I feel like that's something a 16-year-old would say or younger. Like it's just a very naive, not forward thinking way of making a wish. So I have some problems with that book, but I think I'll probably finish it because I do like the idea. Um, so we'll see. So yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about. Um, I have some footage for a vlog coming up that I'm hoping I can get out in December because I have a story about this motherfucker from Friendsgiving. I have things to say about her. So, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, let me know what you're reading. I want to know, like, what's your top favorite book of the year? Because the year is almost over, and I haven't decided what my favorite book yet is. So, let me know. Okay, bye.